Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity. I am a serial entrepreneur. I have been a coach, a long-time professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series, wrote the book, Leading Winning Teams, and also have an NIL education company, Aim for NIL, which we love. And today, as a special edition on Winners Find a Way, we're going to talk about the winning ways with Mark Koesterer. How are you doing, Mark?
Great, Trent. Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Man, Mark is the CEO of the Players NIL. He is a longtime executive in sports entertainment business in Hollywood. We're going to hear a little bit about that story because it's amazing. Long Island guy. You're a Long Island guy, and yet went to college in Michigan. So we love Mark. You know, he comes to the Midwest, finds all about how the Midwest works, yet he's this East Coast mega, and then takes his big skill fundamentals all to the West Coast in Hollywood and brings those values and that hard work and that toughness to LA. And there's no wonder he's a super success. And of course, the Players NIL is near and dear to my heart because these guys are just absolutely educating these kids on how to be an entrepreneur, all the pitfalls of this market and sports and athletics and what we're all here for, right? Because it's not all the pro game, right? And so we are business people probably first a little bit and talking about how that works and how we protect ourselves. And you've been in it a long time. Let's start from the beginning, man. Long Island kid, you get recruited to Hillsdale College. This is a small, ultra conservative school in southern Michigan. And longtime coach Muddy Waters, brings you in. Tell me about that experience. What was that as a kid?
Well, I grew up in a family. My father was a junior high gym teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and eventually a 4th grade elementary school teacher. So education was always in my blood. And like every, gym teacher's kid, whenever I could, I followed my dad to work. I jumped on the trampoline in the closed gym. I played basketball with the kids in his school. And, just sports was a big part of it. My father was a college athlete, a baseball player, by the way, and a quarterback on the football team. And it was during that time, Trent, that my father, he never said these words, but they were very clear in my head. How can you use athletics to better your life? And, for me, it was an opportunity to get a scholarship, which was important to my family. We didn't have a lot of money. Of course, I had the dreams of the big school. In those days, in Long Island, anybody that was anybody went to Penn State and coached Joe Paterno.
Sure. And Joe Pa.
I remember going to a recruiting fair and Penn State was there and they said, Mark, you're a great kid and you got good grades, but, you're just not big enough. I don't know if you're fast enough. And why don't you go to junior college and we'll see what happens. And a lot of my high school teammates did that and it was successful for them. I took the more certain route and I played Division II football at Hillsdale on a full athletic scholarship. And really that's, there was a pipeline from Long Island to New York, or to Michigan. Muddy Waters had started it. He had moved on to Michigan State, but the program still embraced New Yorkers. And we like to say for your audience, Trent, we don't have an accent, we have an attitude.
It's so true too, man. And it's funny because when people talk about Trump's this way, I'm like, hey, have you ever lived in New York, man? This is kind of how people are, man. Like they're tough. And there's a little attitude to it all, and I love it. But let's talk about that because I got a great Joe Pa story, by the way. When I was at the Cleveland Indians, I went out there, and it's relative to your story because we went out there Friday night. Jimmy Warfield was our longtime trainer with the Tribe, and he knew Joe Pa really well. So we're sitting in Joe Pa's office, and he goes, "This is a while ago, right? And this is the '90s." And so he goes, "Oh, hey, Oh, Jimmy, you got to see our new star. He's a great kid. I asked him to come over and say hello." And he says, "Hey, meet LeVar Arrington." And LeVar walks in. He's 18 years old. And this kid is unlike any other 18-year-old I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah. I mean, the shoulders, when he walks in the door, he just fills the door. And I was like, he goes, "Yeah, Jopa, he's got the glasses. He's like, yeah, he ran for like 3,300 yards in high school. And I'm like, who would tackle this kid? Like I'm looking at this guy like in high school. Like, yeah, he's playing linebacker for them, of course. But like, I'm like, yeah, no crap, he was a tailback. Like, this is so you just don't see that. And I was just like, and I've heard so many stories of that, of like some of the best athletes that are on film, and they go, wow, this kid, amazing. But then when you get there and there's a size conflict, because in the Big Ten, man, when I was coaching with Coach Saban, like, you can't look like me and survive week in and week out. Like, I'm just going to be in the training room all the time, and you're going to get me, probably 5-6 games on the schedule, because I'm going to be racked up for 2 weeks, then get back out for a week or two, another 2 weeks. Like, it's just the way it goes. And the big kids are the same way, by the way, not just the little kids, but in the Big Ten, you're like, it's triage every week. And you're thinking, oh man, we got through the Penn State game. Oh, great. We lost 3 starters of our 24, and we have Ohio State next weekend. And you're like thinking, oh my gosh, is this freshman Mark kid, is he going to be ready? Because you were sworn into service, not against, Western Michigan, but against Ohio State in the horseshoe. And it's just like, man, it's such a tough world for these kids, right?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I never lifted a weight till I went to college. That's how old I am, right?
Isn't that crazy? Like, can you imagine that now? Like, the way, I know it's come a long way. But by the way, like that, when I was in college in the 90s, there was lots of kids, because, Saban was also a coach for us at Toledo. When I was playing at Toledo, I was playing baseball and tennis. He was the football coach. And he had, my buddy was Matt Eberflus, just recently a coach of the Bears, right? And Matt was a walk-on that Saban named captain, because he's such a tough kid, right? And we would go to the weight room, and Ken Manning would freak out. He's got 20 kids out of Detroit in these schools, and they're like, what's a barbell? What's a curl? What's a bench press? And you're like, wait, you're 18 years old and a phenomenal athlete. And it's like, they've never seen it. And I was like, man, that's just not the way it is today.
No.
So
I tell people all the time, when you see a Division I athlete, when he walks into the room or to the coffee shop, you could tell.
Yeah, I don't know if they know for me. I'm a 2-time Division I athlete, right? And I don't know if they know with me, Mark. But like, in fairness, you're right. Like, you can tell physically there is a difference. I mean, now fast forward. You and your ex-wife, you have 5 children. You've raised these people up. You're married over 30 years. And I mean, four of these kids are D1 athletes. Like, what kind of what it takes. And these kids found out and were willing to put the time and effort. Is that fair?
Yeah. It was, it was part of my, my bringing up. How do you use athletics to better your life? And then, as a Division II football player, your last football game is your last football game.
Yeah.
And so, your career is over. And, I never was a weekend warrior, didn't play flag football or touch or anything like that. But I developed the second principle of our business, Trent, and that is, for us old folks, how do you use athletics to better the lives of the people around you, right?
Yeah.
And look, my kids, fortunately for me, they embraced athletics and enjoyed it. But I'll be fair, it could be music, could be art, could be science, could be fashion, travel, whatever it may be. Could be, geometry. It's about a passion. But we used athletics to better their lives. And fortunately, my wife and I, dedicated a lot, and because I don't think you become a Division I athlete by yourself. It takes a community. And our kids embraced it, and they used it to get into schools that they may not have gotten into otherwise, and had transformative experiences.
Let's talk about that real quick, Mark, because I love the way you say it, right? Like, how does sports better our lives? And, man, I've spoken 17 countries, right? And it's all because of sports, right? I went to 3 World Series. I must know something. It's funny how you get smarter if you win a championship. I felt like, I tell a lot of people my best year was 2000. And I think in the Angels, we finished like 10 games under 500, right? But we built the foundation. We got the players in place. We got the staff where we needed them to be. We built the right mentality inside the organization to get to where we wanted to go. and there's some great hiring. Obviously, with Mike Socia was a big deal over with the Angels because he brought a mentality and a communication with the players that was different. And fast forward, okay, now 2000, we worked our butt off, and as a staff, Mark, you and I were like going, man, we hit just all of our KPIs, and everyone's going, hey, what's your record? And we're like, oh, we're terrible right now, but like, you watch, man. And so it was such an accomplishment in 2002 to win that world championship, knowing the fabric you have to go through to get there, right? It's always this day for that day. And there's so many this day for that day when you get the college scholarship. And Mark, to your point, so good. That day when you get first chair in the Philharmonica, like first chair on the Mathletes, like, you're on the team in the debate club. You made the lead in the choir or the show, like whatever you're going for. It's a lot of like, hey, what am I doing this day? What am I doing this day? And I remember thinking in college, I decided in 8th grade I wanted this. So by the time you're a junior and you sign, that's 4 years. That's over 1,200 this days for that day, right? Yeah. So it just it's a grind, right? And what I'm going to do inside that time and be intentional is so important. So when I think about what athletics have done for my life, looking back now, as you kind of reverse engineer this, walk through, you feel like you've accomplished that and how that worked into your Hollywood career.
Yeah. So, always had a passion for sports. I was involved in youth sports, was a founding member of an organization that grew to 3,000 kids that played youth lacrosse in Syracuse, New York every summer. Founded a youth program in our community that eventually became the high school program. Today has put 260 kids in college from that one high school. And so my kids had grown and gone. And through some relationships I had an opportunity to move to Los Angeles. I spent the first 2 years working for this company as a manufacturing manager, making uniforms. And we did high school and college athletes. And we did the lettering for the Dodgers. We did some for the Angels. We did for the Raiders. So we were in the sports apparel business. And after 2 years, the company was struggling, and the owners came to me and said, I think we're going to shut it down. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just moved from New York, and I have a wife here. My daughter's finishing high school. And they said, well, what do you think we should do? And I said, I would do this, and this. And they said, okay, you're in charge. And I went back and I had to fire the 4 people that were ahead of me in the company and start over. And I became the CEO. But it was those foundational principles in terms of, what you mentioned, the hard work and the lessons from my dad, and most importantly, the lessons from Hillsdale and athletics, and then my experience with my kids, building a team, understanding that when you have 5 kids, and I think you said you had 5 kids as well, Trent, everyone used to come, into our house or visit us, or people that knew us said, oh my God, it's definitely a Koesterer. Like the kids are all the same. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Every kid is different. Every kid is different in our family, ate the same food, drank the same milk, came from the same parents, but they're way different. And I think when you become a CEO, you have to realize that everyone in your organization may not be like you. It may not be like each other. And so you take that teamwork and the team building and the understanding and the patience to understand that there's people that think differently than you. And that was a real revelation for me. It was a big move.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, by the way, sometimes this is how the best entrepreneurial ventures start. Like it's not out of, hey, I'd like to. It's out of necessity. Like, hey, man, I got mouths to feed. Like, I can't just get out here and just quit. Like, that can't happen. So I love that, and really pivoting to your knowledge. And I mean, and you did this for 15 years after that, like, and built this whole thing up. And I mean, for people who don't know, I mean, your company became a sports icon of doing commercial video, all sorts of different events in the space, and just amazing. So walk us through now. You're done with it. You're kind of done with Hollywood, probably, I'm sure. Like, and you're thinking, hey, I'm pivoting to the Players NIL. Why is that?
Well, I don't know that I knew what I was pivoting, right? We had a successful exit. We sold the business in June of 21. July 1st, chaos ensues. And for the first time in my life, Trent, I was not working. Since I was 13 years old, I worked. Even when I had a full scholarship, I worked in college. I worked in the summers. It's just what you did. And it was, a year or so after COVID, right? This is summer of 21. And played some golf. I was living in Manhattan Beach, California. Not a bad place to live.
Not terrible. It's a good spot for people who don't know. That's down in the OC, man, and it's nice.
Yeah, it's a good spot. And started talking to people, and everyone said, "Hey, you following what's going on in college athletics? Have you seen what this NIL thing is?" And so I did a deep dive. And what I saw, Trent, was the same thing that I'd seen in Hollywood, and that was adults taking advantage of kids who weren't educated. And it's still true today, 4 years later. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, given my background, given my genetics, that I wasn't going to be an agent. I'm not a marketing company. I'm not a marketplace. I don't take commissions. But I thought I could make a difference by creating an education company. And I want to tell you something that happened along the way was, unfortunately, my father at age 86 passed away. I was a junior high gym teacher, never owned a business, never ran for political office, never employed a person. And I can't tell you about the hundreds of people that reach out to me to say they were sorry or come to his memorial service. And as I wrote his eulogy, I had to write down all of the things he had done to contribute to society. His church, the candy stripers at the hospital, Habitat for Humanity, all the things that he had done. And the word legacy came to mind, Trent. And I challenge young people today, and you'll appreciate this because you get it. If you disappeared today, Trent, would anyone care tomorrow? And if you were to go away, if sports were to be taken away, what's your legacy? If you were to retire, have you affected anyone? Do you have a coaching tree in business? Do you have a coaching tree in life? Are there people that grew up under you and learned under you and now are successful? And I really became obsessed with building the Players NIL. My legacy is attached. My coaching tree is attached. But I think I can change lives by creating a mindset for them to create a legacy for themselves.
Yeah, I love this because I've always followed the premise in my legacy of, I've always been taken care of. Me and my family have been taken care of because I helped people get what they wanted. Like the more people I helped, man, the more successful I got, right? And I just thought, man, I love it. I love it. And I love going out and helping people reach their potential. It just feels, and you've been there, right? You're a Division II athlete. You're going, man, I never lifted a weight. By the time you're a junior, you're like, I'm a different beast now, man. And you go back along, I'm like, hey, Mark, what you been doing? It's yeah, man, I am diesel over here, and I am at the epitome of my physical potential now. And of course, you and I, we develop over a lifetime our physical, our mental, our emotional, our moral conditioning, right? We're doing that all the time. And man, and the thing that bent me about NIL was I was like, for years in pro ball, I was like, man, could I just take Mark Koesterer, LLC and do your $12 million contract? Because then you can start, hey, how would I like to, help these guys do my marketing for me? And they're going to help me do my contracts outside the business. And this one's going to be my agent. And he's going to get a portion of my shares in my LLC. And they're like, no, you're a W-2 employee. And I'm like, why are we doing it like that? That's stupid, man. This is does anyone own a company? Because that's not a good way to distribute taxes and liabilities and everything that's going to be involved. Because as you said, being a Division I athlete, there are so many people that come around you and support you. And it's the same as a pro, obviously, maybe 2-3x that, right? And so you're like, how do I take care of those people after taxes, right? And so I'm like, that's not how our businesses work. We have employees, we have people work inside to help the greater good of the brand. And so I saw this what an opportunity for college kids to have. And the other thing, it was just so upsetting to me, Mark, I'm a president of the entrepreneur organization in West Michigan, a group of 18,000 entrepreneurs worldwide, right, who own businesses that generate over $1 million a year. And I was just like, all these ads are like, start a website, you'll be an entrepreneur and make millions. And I was like, oh, it's a little bit harder than that, right? Because, you build that thing out of LA and you're like, oh, we're going to pivot to something totally different. start again. And you're like, holy crap, man, this is hard work, right? Like, this is not for the faint at heart. So the kids now have a chance to be an entrepreneur. They're going to find out. And then the skill sets, right? Sales, marketing, branding, just communication with clients. And I look at these kids, and these kids are coming out of AIM for NIL, the Players NIL, and they're going, oh, hey, I'd like a job after university. Let me show you the 4 chief marketing officers of these brands that I've done NIL deal, and they will vouch for me as a person that I think I can help your company. And you're like, what 23-year-old in the world's got that, right? That's crazy. And so you provided that for them, and they've got this entrepreneurial, paying taxes, handling money, all these lessons. This is like college on like steroids to me in a pre-business world.
Yeah, I think all of that's true in a perfect world, but the world isn't perfect. And so, on July 1st, 2021, the NCAA did us no favors, right? They released the hounds, as they say the genie came out of the bottle, whatever analogy you want to use, with no guardrails, no guidelines, no predetermined, path. There were no companies that were working in this space. So it was chaos, and what happens when there's no rules and there's money involved and egos? You have what we call the NIL era, Trent. And I would argue that up until recently, although it's been the NIL era, it really hasn't been NIL. It has been dominated by 3 things: pay for play, transfer portal chaos, another, thank you very much, NCAA, for screwing that one up, and collectives, right? The alumni and booster clubs on steroids. All now legally paying athletes to come to their program on 1-year contracts. Now we're changing, right? And we could talk about the pendulum swinging, but none of that has to do with their social media. None of that has to do with their community service, their entrepreneurship, or even their grades, right? And so it isn't really NIL. It's the NIL era dominated by those 3 things. What you're talking about is what I refer to as real, as in realistic, real NIL, which is building a personal brand, creating opportunities for yourself, telling a story, networking, and not just a 4-year transactional mindset, but a 40-year transformative mindset. And I think we're beginning that now. We're starting to get some guidelines. We're starting to see the opportunity for the 98% that aren't in the Power 4, revenue sharing programs.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Hold on, real quick. I want to explain that. Okay, I want to explain it to people because they don't get this, right? The 98%. There are 580,000 college athletes. So 2%, just so we're clear, is 11,000 kids. So we're talking about the other 569,000 athletes that can go out there, produce a job. I never made more than $12,000 a year, for goodness sakes, while I was an athlete. It's hard to make money because the demand is high, and I'm playing 2 sports, of course, and the demand is super high. Where would I have the time to make that money? You only got about 2 months, and now all sports are year round, right? You got to go train somewhere in the summer. So this is $1,000 a month, just an average, in like 12 grand. That's real money to a college athlete who has maybe some of their stuff, not all of their stuff, taken care of. And there's a lot of opportunity. Is that fair?
Yeah, but let's make sure that we're fair and honest with our audience, with your audience, right? So in 2024, right, last year, calendar year, the average NIL deal was about $2,500. Okay, that includes football and basketball, right?
Wow.
The median deal last year was $70. That means half of all NIL deals were $70 or less.
Yeah,
I don't think people understand
nothing.
That.
Yeah, nothing.
I don't think people understand it. And here's 2 more statistics just in the NIL era. About 85% of NIL deals are based on social media. So what I tell people is what you did for a summer job, what I did for a summer job, paint houses, mow lawns, 10 bar, lift boxes for a moving company, landscaping, all of those, physical fitness related jobs, right? You don't have to do that now, right? You can start a camp, you can start a business. 85% of NIL deals are based on social media. You could become an influencer if that's what you want to do. And 60% of NIL deals are based on relationships with local businesses.
Yeah.
So now, although it's hard to make money, it's an easier platform today with digital technology and social media than it was for you and I to go mow lawns or 10 bar.
And I love this because the 60% of local businesses are at least 2 markets, because there's typically, for a college athlete, you're going to be in your high school market of where you grew up, and then the college market of where you went. So kids out there, like, you have 2 markets automatically built in that know you. They knew you. You're the hometown kid gone good off to the college scholarship that you've been featured in your local paper for quite a time. And now you're at the university who has all sorts of resources who want to support the kids at the university. So this 60% is a big number on the local side. Is that fair, Mark?
Yeah, totally. I agree. It's a hometown hero mentality. We teach that there's 3 circles of brand building, Trent, and this is just commonsensical, but it's the way I describe it, because we're always coaching, right? We're always teaching, right? We're always trying to communicate. And so the 3 circles of brand building, every kid gets a phone, they load on Instagram or whatever, TikTok, whatever they're doing, and it's their friends and family circle, right? It's the first people that they connect with, their buddies, their sister, brother, their parents, to make sure that they know what's going on. The second circle is the one you just referred to as your community circle. And those are the people that maybe saw you play, read about you in the newspaper, saw an interview, know who you are, saw you practicing down in the park, right? You don't know who they are, but they know who you are, right? That's your community circle. And then the third circle, which will hopefully eventually be the biggest one, would be your professional circle. And those are the people you're going to work for, work with, you're going to hire, etc. But that community circle plays into what we're talking about, because if you're the hometown hero, let's say, Trent, you were, the best baseball player on your high school team, and today, you're the best player on the travel team. There's a lot of people that know who you are, right?
That's right.
Through storytelling, you can build a following that you can now leverage with that local business.
Yeah, and I'm instantly thinking, I'm a Battle Creek, Michigan kid. This is where I grew up. And most people know my hometown because they eat breakfast and they got a cereal box in front of them that says Kellogg's on it, Battle Creek, Michigan, right? It's like everywhere I've been in the world, Mark. It's so funny. I was speaking, like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, from Battle Creek, Michigan. Oh, Kellogg's. So I guess everyone eats Frosted Flakes and Pop-Tarts, right? So this is the deal. And I'm like, why wouldn't Kellogg's want to support a kid like me? Like, I'm a hometown kid gone good, like an all-state player in a couple sports. I've played, against all these pros in tennis with Todd Martin and Mel Washington and Crickstein. And like, this is an opportunity for them to support somebody locally. Oh, and by the way, they have a foundation that has $1 billion. like kids, like it's here, like resources are there. And I'm just thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, for me, these kids have the opportunity to leave college with a 6-figure nest egg to start life, not just debt free, but like, you have not only all these experiences that you've learned through people like us, Mark, but you've got a down payment maybe for a house. You've got some things that you can do if you understand that this is not just a summer job, but a real way to build some equity in your life. And it kind of coming back to what you talked about, what your dad taught you. How does sports, create this value in your life? And this is a pretty big value. You agree?
Yeah, totally. But we go beyond that because, I think part of the problem, Trent, that we have in society today is we put so much pressure on these kids from an athletic standpoint. Especially in baseball, you got the World Series, the Little League World Series on TV today. And you're a baseball guy, but I'm going to tell you that I hate the Little League World Series.
You do?
Because, I think it's exploitation. It's total exploitation. And I think that they take advantage of the kids. But anyhow, we've made kids think that they're an athlete only. And that's a mistake, because at some point, the ball is going to stop bouncing and they won't be an athlete. And then who are you? Right? And so we have one rhetorical question for every group that we talk to. Trent, what does success look like to you? And I don't mean, next year or 2 years. I mean 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. And what are the milestones that you need to achieve to get there? And in the storytelling, who are you besides a baseball or a tennis player, Trent? Are you interested in entrepreneurship? Are you interested in finance, real estate, Tell us about who you are so that when athletics is taken away, you still can look in the mirror and feel good about yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. I got that question early in my life, like when I was 12, from a favorite teacher who said, "What's life going to be like for you when you're 30?" And I thought, man, that's like my parents' age. Thinking like that's old, man. And at the same time, like when you're in college, that's coming fast. Like you don't realize that you're 20 now, it's 10 years, right? Like this is not that long. And I remember the old study, right? This came out in Sports Illustrated probably when we were, college age, right? Which was, hey, if you could cheat and we pulled all the Olympians and you could win gold, and never get caught, would you do it? I'm like, you're asking 17 and 18-year-old kids, they've worked their whole life for this moment that's about to happen within the next 3 years. And of course it was like 80%, right? I said, okay, now let's do the poll where you're 40 years old and you're going to leave your wife or husband and your 3 kids destitute without their father or mother because your choices are now causing a serious negative impact in your life and likely death. And so was it worth it now? Because that's a different poll, right? Like that's a whole different thing. And so we don't have that wisdom at 17, 18 years old. And so just the very idea of getting kids thinking about life at 30, it's not that far away. And sports will end some way. It's hard for kids to imagine, but we all love March Madness, right? Listen, 63 teams end the season on a loss, right? Like one ends the season with a win, that's it. Like, this is how it goes, man. Like, so it's not like, oh, I'm going to do a retirement tour of the Big Ten before I go. Like, no, you're not. Like, you might not even make it into the playoff, right? Like, so that's not the way it goes. It ends quite abruptly.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually not on your terms.
Yeah. Rarely on your terms. Yeah. So what most people don't know about you is that you're a music guy. Like you dig it. Like you are into music and on your own time, like you love it. Tell us a little bit about that, how that developed.
Well, I grew up in the 70s, and music was
me too.
Amazing music in the 70s. And, probably everyone says that about their generation, but I went, lived the transition from, Woodstock and folk music, right? My parents listened to, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass and, Ella Fitzgerald and that genre, and then Woodstock and then rock
Simon
and roll.
And Garfunkel, man, like come on.
Yeah, the 70s, 60s, then the 70s was amazing music. We started with rock and roll and then into the disco era, right? But I was a fan of music. I listened to the radio all the time, but, it was an AM radio on a Volkswagen Bug or an 8-track of Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. I couldn't understand the lyrics. I just got the music, But I always loved music. Always
had Dashboard Light. I don't even know if they're talking about Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. And so, as a parent now, we did a lot of road trips. My parents and in-laws lived 5 hours away. So we did a lot of traveling and always had music on. And inevitably you get to this point, I'm sure you've been there, where you start fighting over the music, right? I don't like that song. He got to play his song. She didn't get to play her song, all this stuff. So this is like the beginning of the CD era, where you didn't have to have the cassette tapes, but you had CDs where you could put a CD in and go right to track number 6 and play the song that you wanted. So we developed a plan that we were going to go around the car and every kid was going to get a chance to play one song and we were going to rotate through the car, including mom and dad.
Love that. Yeah.
And so I learned about Biggie Smalls. I learned about Tupac. I learned about rap.
Oh, this is with your kids. You didn't do this back when you were young. Going,
no, this is with
Kenny
my
Rogers,
kids, right?
Gambler. Like the Gambler.
No, this is with my kids. And so
we couldn't change it out like that. We couldn't. It wasn't like that streaming music. You had to take the 8-track out. Where's the bread tape? Where's the Simon and Garfunkel? That's so good. Like that wasn't. It didn't change on a dime like that.
Yeah, so we did that, and they had to learn about the Eagles and Journey and all of these groups. But it really it brought out this eclectic interest in music. And as a side note, I'll just tell you that I think that Somewhere Over the Rainbow is the greatest song ever written. That's my feeling.
Wow. All right. There you go. That's pretty good. Wow. I love it, man. All right. There you go. Song of the day right there. Get that on your Spotify, your Apple Music right now. All right. I want to pivot a little bit, Mark. I love this. I can talk music all day, by the way, because don't get me started on Rush. But like, I want to talk about a lesson, the Players NIL. These kids right now listening, I want them to hear what are some of the fundamental things I just have to do. Like, and parents out there of travel kids who are like, hey, my kids are going. You and I both now, this has now come down from 10 kids, 10 states, 12 states in 2001 to 40 of the 50 states allowing this now at the high school level. So kids can start making money and get NIL deals and learn about this thing from guys like Mark and I, and walk them through some of the fundamental things that we just got to know.
Well, I asked two rhetorical questions. I already gave you one. What does success look like down the road? Yep. And then I challenge, this is about the high school level, right? And then I challenge the parents, what does success look like to you as a parent? Like, where do you want little Johnny or little Susie to be? And what do you want their life to look like, right? And so then our platform is around athletics. Then I add in how can you use athletics to better your life? So create a vision for where you want to go, create a plan, use athletics to get there. The NIL era has just awakened the giant, and that is that athletes have always had an advantage from a societal standpoint. We love athletes. We always watched athletes sponsor, professional athletes pitch products on television and in magazines and whatnot. Now we just see college kids do it or Olympians do it. And so, how can you use this digital age to achieve those two things, whatever success looks like and using athletics to better your life? Now, part of it in high school is the recruiting thing, Trent. And one of the things that recruiting is going towards is, we want mature kids, and we're going to look at their digital profile. What are they like on social media?
Yeah.
Are they mature? And so, how do you build that profile? How do you tell a story that makes a college kid attracted to you and not, walk away from you? All right.
Yeah.
So at the high school level,
you and I have both seen high school kids lose college scholarship access because of social media. It has happened time and time again, parents. Like, you don't think you need to monitor this stuff? You better know what's going on. You post something, you get it down as soon as possible, because I have seen kids, Big Ten. I remember a kid over in Chicago, Penn State. We don't think you're Penn State material anymore.
Yeah.
He'd already had the party. He'd already had the, I'm going, baby, the whole party. And that reversed course in a matter of like probably 6 hours.
Yeah. So that's, that's kind of like the theme for high school kids and parents and coaches. Then in the college, it shifts slightly towards more of a long-term view is, every college athlete should be on LinkedIn, building a digital profile about what their interests are professionally. Is it real estate? Is it finance? Is it pharmaceutical sales? They want to be a coach. What do they want to do? And start to build that resume, because, corporations now are using AI to find candidates. And so they're scraping the internet for a kid that shows an interest and a propensity and a skill set, in line with what they're looking for. So, in college, it's not short-term, 4 years, it's 40-year mentality.
And kids, this isn't hard. Kids, this is your major, right? Like you're leaning into your major. Like, hey, I want to be a CPA. I'm in accounting. Great. LinkedIn, accounting, start meeting, connect to the managing partners of 25 CPA firms. By the way, great place to start with an NIL deal. Like they, promote their brand, do some stuff, intern. Like all these things are happening for you. You have Launchpad U that you talked about. Is that for the high school kids, or is that for both, or college kids?
Well, Launchpad U at the high school level involves just what we talked about, looking at this success and creating a platform, and it involves individual counseling. Launchpad U, the college version, is about creating job opportunities. And you just nailed it. If you want to be an accountant, you should be connected to 25 CPA firms, all the hiring managers. You should be writing about accounting, talking about accounting subjects, reposting articles that have been written about things that you're interested in, and creating a bridge for internships or perhaps career development opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, kids, it's not hard. Social media posts. Hey, kids, Learn about EBITDA. Like, what does that mean, right? Like explain accounting terms to people, and they'll get a kick out of a college athlete talking about this thing. It looks foreign, and everyone tunes in. I just saw the Mercedes little clip, right? That now has, I think, 8 million views of an old guy like you and I using the girl terms, hey, this car slays, he's like using all these terms that just look wrong for people in our era. And they're making fun of the fact like he's trying to be cool, but the car is cool. And the generation is just passing it on. And you've got 8 million and probably now 80,000 young ladies who go, I'm thinking about buying a Mercedes. Like, this is cool. Like, one post. I mean, come on, you can't pay for those marketing dollars, and people will give you $1,000, $2,000 a month to create content for them all day long. Take it to the bank. Monthly recurring revenue, MRR. Put them on a contract and develop content for them.
But you have to have but Trent, you have to have a following. Right?
That's right. You got to have. That's right.
So you have to build that, right? And then you do that through storytelling, right? And branding. Who are you? And telling stories that make you relatable to an audience.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Keep going. Let's keep going. What you get the fundamental? We get that. Do you recommend the LLC? Do you recommend kids file and develop the business and do that? Because we do that. We recommend that.
Well, I think it's depends on what the income level is, right? Because there's certain tax advantages if you're making 5 figures, perhaps, but if you're making $3,000 a year to have an LLC, you're going to spend more money on the filing fees and the accounting than you are on what you're going to save, right? And you're probably at a tax bracket that doesn't make any difference. One of the things about LLCs that's being explored now is, is it deferred income so that it doesn't affect your financial aid, for instance, right? That's a big thing. But certainly, I'd say as a general guideline, anything over 5 figures, so $10,000 or above on an annual basis, you should consider an LLC and you should consult a tax advisor.
Yeah, I think the other side of that is a liability shield from you, the athlete, especially if you're going to get involved with a physical product like a car, like something that's going to be involved. That would be another factor for me of why you'd want that LLC protection, because you don't need people coming after you personally. They can come after a company, and that's a little bit shield. There's a little bit of veil there. So I love that. Let's talk some about the pitfalls, because you just kind of mentioned it, right? That there's tax implications. I know a lot of kids take on like, hey, we're going to send you a free, remote for your gaming system and this and that. Well, some of these remotes are $300, right? And so that company is going to take your social security number or your LLC, you'll have an EIN number, and they're going to take that and go, oh, we gave them $1,000 worth of products. Go, great. I got free product. There's a value to that, and you'll have to pay taxes on that value. And so a lot of parents and kids don't understand that. I got $30,000 of free swag. You have a liability now, maybe of $3,000 here that might be coming even as a young kid with no income. Like, you receive something and now there's a tax implication. I don't think kids know that.
Yeah. I think taxes are the obvious one and the biggest one, and Uncle Sam always gets his money, right? So that's a big issue. And so we address that because it's important. But I think there's other liabilities and pitfalls, to use your word. There's the mental health aspect about social media. That's a real problem. There's a time management problem. Are you so consumed with building an NIL brand and that you let other parts of your life fall down, whether it be academics or social or athletics? Right.
Yeah, you're third string now. I forgot to work on actually my skill set and practicing. Right.
Yeah, because you're distracted. So I think there's that. There's no question about. Look, and celebrity. I will say this from Hollywood, Trent. When you're in front of a camera, when you have some people that like you, it's like a drug, right? Celebrity is a drug. I've seen it change people. I've seen it change people dramatically. Good people. But they become consumed with what people think. They consume with their followers, consume with impressing people, and then you see, the body imaging problems, and, they lose their friends and they forget who they are as a person. So I think those are pitfalls, especially for young people. And then there's the chemical part of, there's a lot of studies out there, and I'm not the expert about, these young kids that are on social media all the time and on screen time, and how the brain isn't developing. So there's a lot of physiological issues with social media in general and screen time specifically.
Yeah, I think the mental health is real challenging, and I think about it every fall, particularly because it feels like a live and die kind of ride or die kind of life with these college football teams. And I feel for these kickers, these kids. Like every weekend, 10 are going to miss a kick to lose a game, to be a difference maker at the end of the game. And you and I both know there were 49 and a half other minutes or 59 and a half other minutes of this thing that were variables that could have changed this outcome. But only the kids focus on the 19-year-old kid who's wide left or wide right. And the things that are said socially by 50-year-old men and women astound me. Like, you got to be kidding me that you would say this publicly on an open platform about this kid. I mean, it's amazing. And by the way, like I dealt with this as a speaker. You probably done, like, you see feedback on, hey, what do we think of Mark's talk? And one person goes, oh, that was you're just like, wow, man, like, what the heck? Like, 99 people loved your talk and one person just beats the snot out of you, and you're just like, I got to change my whole program. Like, I can't believe they said this about me.
Yeah.
And it hurts, man. Like,
it hurts.
And you feel like, man, I got to get a better, thicker raincoat because I got to let this stuff roll off. And it's not easy. It's not easy as for me, I was 33 on that, that was my third World Series. I was 33 years old. So I'm a young guy, but I'm a man, and I didn't let it roll off. Like, that was stuff that kind of kept me up at night. I remember some of the comments, and I was like, not positive, not great self-talk, right? And ignoring, by the way, the 499 positive comments, like, by the way, just glossing over all those things. Like,
so let me ask you a question. Let me turn the tables here for a second. Entrepreneur to entrepreneur. One of the things that makes you a great entrepreneur is your self-belief system, right?
Yeah.
You believe in what you're doing. You think what you're doing is right. You think you're solving a problem. And you can't believe that someone else doesn't believe the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what hurts. How do you feel when people don't buy into your message?
Yeah. Yeah. Or worse, they say your message is this or that, like the opposite of what you're going for, right? And you're like, what? No, that can't be. It's so good. I'm glad that you pointed out it's still happening at 55. Thank you. It is still happening at 55.
Me too. I wake up every morning and hope nobody hates me.
Yeah, right. It is still happening. Well, listen, man. I mean, the Players NIL is an incredible company. For people out there, you got to check it out. theplayerSNIL.com. It's amazing. Mark, tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, you just said it. theplayerSNIL.com. We're on social media at theplayerSNIL. I'm a big LinkedIn proponent. If you want to learn, I give away a lot of education. My LinkedIn profile, Mark Koesterer, and reach out if you have questions or need help and support. I'd love to help.
Yeah, and Mark's also a LinkedIn educator. Like, he has a great program right now out on LinkedIn that just released about 30 days ago or so about this NIL education and how it's going. And so he's a real contributor there. So you're not going to want to miss that. So there's easy ways to get to Mark. Please reach out to him. For everybody else, as always, thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show. Trent Clark, I am the author of Leading Winning Teams. Get out there, get that book. Was fortunate to partner with Wiley on that, my publisher, and it's been a great experience with them. And for everybody else, we always can't wait to see you every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, live on the Winners Find a Way show. Check out our new podcast, Winning Ways, where we feature all these one percenters talking about the how to get her done. And so lots of education there. So we can't wait to see you then. Until next time, Winners Find a Way. All right, brother.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hold on one second. We are just wrapping live. And I love the fact that my timer's still